foundation, internet magic money. Tell me what you know about Bitcoin. Anybody?
It's a crypto?
It's part of the stock market.
Excellent. So it's a crypto.
It's like a decentralized currency.
Oh damn! I need to give you $1 Bitcoin for that. Hey, no, just kidding.
You gave us $1.
You can have two.
Feel free to
James, you have the card from Taiwan dollar or what US dollar?
Oh, actually, I gave $1 because my settings in US dollar. Yeah.
Very generous.
It's fun. Yeah.
It's okay, it's in the bear market.
No, it's bad because it's in bear market. There's more sats. Yeah. Anybody else? So it's a crypto. It's decentralized. But do you know anything? Can you comment on maybe why the Human Rights Foundation or this forum will have Bitcoin here? Should it be like an investment forum?
It can be traded legally without being blocked by
You're getting into
government.
something. Yes.
It's like another form of currency, though technically it wasn't made to be currency, right?
You actually speak to my heart. Yes. It's actually the my personal view, but many would disagree. Bitcoin is the only indestructible database or asset in the world. Indestructible meaning that no states, no entities, no person, no company can control it. It's completely decentralized. And it's actually the only cryptocurrency. The other ones are securities. They are not exactly crypto, but they use a crypto name for marketing purposes. But coming back to your point is, as a indestructible database, the first use case is money, but it can be used for many things else. And the reason why Human Rights Foundation and Bitcoin have a linkage is because in the design of Bitcoin, in the structure of Bitcoin, as well as in the operation of Bitcoin, it's freedom, it's liberty at its core. And let me talk about the in practice. For example, I was in Hong Kong for quite some time. I went to the Hong Kong protest. I even brought my Hong Kong jacket here. And Hong Kong protesters at the time, they had to, they rely on an app called Hong Kong Map Life to know exactly where the police are and where to escape. But the app needed money to operate. And the only way the app company or the group of people were able to get funding was actually via Bitcoin. So that's one way. And why that is again, to his point, nobody can control or disrupt or destruct Bitcoin, not the state. So if I want to send something to you, nobody in the world can stop it. And I say that in an absolute term, in the sense that no other apps, no other technology, no other network, payment channel can do this. This is the only one. And
Can
why?
I ask a question regarding this?
Yes.
And what is if the addresses get sanctioned? Like for example, as we saw with Ethereum and the Tornado Cash, did some addresses get sanctioned? And I imagine with Bitcoin you have a similar issue, like when you have sanctions against North Korea, for example, and address controlled by them.
Yes. So I think a lot of these sanctions are, so it's a two-layered question. A lot of these sanctions happen on centralized exchanges or compliant exchanges.
And compliant miners is also.
Yeah, exactly. And not to get too technical, for example, recently we have the Ethereum merge. And after the merge, you see they went fully compliant, right? But compliant, just to push you guys into the rabbit hole a little bit on politics, is what is compliance? What is legal? Legal is what the state says is legal. It's what the state says is right. But in philosophy, that's called positivism. Is the state decides what's right for you. But if you're in China, the state would say it's right to be quarantined at home indefinitely. It is not right to voice your concerns about the government. It is legal under their law to do so. And that's where Bitcoin is a little bit different, is because it's not controlled by anybody, so nobody, including governments, can impose their view on how you should deal with your money. Yes.
I got a question.
Yes.
But if, like, theoretically,
Yes.
China decided to ban Bitcoin, like, you're not allowed to have the app.
Excellent question. So that's another point that's fascinating about Bitcoin is the only technology or industry in the world that has been fully attacked by a nation state. And in fact, the most powerful authoritarian nation state in the world, that is the CCP China, they attacked it in 2020? 2020, yes. And nothing happened to Bitcoin. And that goes into the indestructible aspect of it. Why is it indestructible? It's very simple. Allow me 1 minute to explain how Bitcoin works. Bitcoin is like, we have a ledger, a recording of how much everybody owns. You have a copy, everybody has a copy. And we're synchronized every 10 minutes, globally, everywhere. If you want to tweak that ledger, everybody else would know you're the bad actor. It doesn't work, right? Unless you can hack 51% of all these ledgers around the world within 10 minutes, then maybe you can do it. In China, what China did is they actually banned Bitcoin using the whole of nation's power. And they actually banned all the mining out of, mining is a recording of Bitcoin in 2020, and they failed. Why? Because the rest of the world's system still works. It's decentralized. And that gets into another philosophical point that you guys will probably get into as you go to college, etc. Is decentralization is anti-fragility. When you have a lot of different nodes, there's not a single point of attack that you can take down. Do you play video games? Right? You play video games.
A bit.
If there's like a base I need to take, I go take that base, I win. But what if there are thousands, millions of bases around the world that continuously respawning? It's unattackable. And that's what Bitcoin is.
So
It's a game.
there's a measure called the Nakamoto coefficient. It's a fancy name, but it's a way to measure decentralization. So for Bitcoin, the Nakamoto coefficient is 7,200, give or take. Right? For Ethereum, which is the first largest security, second largest crypto,
Yep.
okay, it's around 70.
Yes.
Okay, which do you think is more decentralized?
It's actually getting wider and wider. Now, yes.
Because when you hear crypto or blockchain, usually people are talking about Ethereum. But Ethereum and Bitcoin is like very different design. And I think there is the biggest difference is Ethereum is now it's proof of stake, and so it's proof of stake versus proof of work. If you hear that, this is the algorithm, like how people mine the coin. But the idea is proof of work, which is Bitcoin, you need real energy. But in proof of stake, they're like voting, it's more like the politics thing. And so there's a bigger difference, and the second one is like, Ethereum, they want to do a smart contract, so their node is much more bigger. So if you think, oh, all the crypto, they are all P2P, or decentralized, it's not. Bitcoin is really the P2P decentralized one, because you have small node, everyone can have a small node. But in Ethereum, they have much bigger node, you need like a data center or bigger computer to host that. And I think there's another one is, Ethereum you have an account, but Bitcoin is all address. So it's like different model. It's more complicated, but you can like, you know.
I can keep creating addresses.
I mean,
Yes.
yeah, like just you
I
said.
mean, it's the UTXO model versus the
Exactly.
Yeah.
account-based
Yes,
model. I mean,
so-
UTXO is like, you have coins like money and paper like real cash,
Yeah.
and account-based model is more like the banking system.
Yeah,
But in
so-
practice, I mean, the difference was always like the argument by Bitcoiners was always, okay, this UTXO-based model is better because of privacy, but in practice, the privacy differences are not that big, because in these kind of like Bitcoin and Ethereum, you both have to use mixers if you want to stay private. So if you want to buy drugs or like anything that where you have a direct repercussion from the government, then you would need to mix your coins first with these kind of tools. But there's also different blockchains that, or different cryptocurrencies that have on the first layer that encrypt every transaction and make sure there's privacy of senders and receivers, so it's totally like cash.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
But I would say that a copy is more
I think
fragile, I would say, because like
Yeah,
they
that's the
can
argument.
sanction, and they rely on all their financial history.
Yes.
This is their most product. They can I can airdrop, I can do those devices, right? But the problem is privacy problem, right? You reveal all your previous transactions.
But I mean,
on
that's
one
the
edge.
same issue with Bitcoin. With Bitcoin, you also have the issue that you can link the coins, because you know from
chain
like
analysis.
where
Yes.
the coins go. And I mean, there are mixes, like for example, there's Samurai Wallet. Like maybe you know about Samurai Wallet.
Yes.
And they are
Also
really
Wasabi.
serious, but Wasabi is compromised.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
you can say, okay, Samurai is the one. Like if you want to do activism or whatever, you should rather depend on Samurai.
And I think this discussion, if I may bring back to the human rights context, Bitcoin is not the most anonymous or private. It's not the most private design of cryptocurrency. However, it is the most decentralized, which causes it to become the most indestructible network. And let's put it into a practical setting, going back to what we talked about, positivism, what the government thinks is right and wrong. If I'm a descendant in China trying to send money outside of China or just to preserve my wealth, normally you will have to rely on wires or whatever, but all those things have to follow regulations, so they cannot do it for you. And if you're a descendant, you're done. Your wealth is gone. But Bitcoin, even though it's not the most private one, it is the most indestructible one, meaning that if you want to send that money to somebody you know outside of China, there is absolutely nothing that can stop you from doing that. And that is the reason why Bitcoin is here at the forum.
So to come back to what James is saying, and what Pei said earlier on, does everybody understand what's a node and what's P2P?
A bit.
Okay. So maybe just to explain what's a node. So a node is a way that a computer connects to the blockchain. In very simple terms, right? If I have the correct software, this is a node. So one you were using earlier, it's a light node.
The copies of ledgers I talked about earlier.
So
the
it
copies.
doesn't keep a full copy
Yes.
of the Bitcoin ledger. A full copy of the Bitcoin ledger is around 550 gigabytes at the moment. That since it was invented back in 2008. Did I get that right? I always get it wrong. 2008, 2009. So
Born 2009.
yeah, okay.
Written 2008.
Yeah.
There we go. See, I have to check with the gurus. But this node can be light node on a mobile phone. Alex has got Bitcoin Core running on his laptop. That's a full node.
There is a Bitcoin node running on this laptop right now.
Yeah. Okay. That's the full copy of everything that's on Bitcoin. Everyone in the world sees
Since the
same
beginning of
thing.
Bitcoin's birth.
And everyone sees the same thing.
Yes.
That is the one version of the truth. You can have it on your desktop at home, or you can put it on a computer like companies use or in the data center, or the ASICs that you read about. Okay? And each one of those connects to the computer network or the blockchain that Bitcoin runs on. Okay? Why Bitcoin can be used even in places where there's censorship or there's restrictions or something is banned, okay, is because this phone will talk directly to that laptop with nobody in between. So how can you stop something if Alex and I are having a private conversation? You can't. It's impossible. And that's why Bitcoin is censorship resistant, decentralized, and every attempt to stop it as a communication network has failed. You can run Bitcoin on a Raspberry Pi. Right? So you can go to Konosuchan, buy a Raspberry, get an SD card, buy a hard disk, an external hard disk, 2 terabytes. Within 30 minutes, all the software will be loaded. Leave it overnight. It will synchronize with the full blockchain, and you will have your own Bitcoin computer at home.
And it would also be interesting to hear what a lightning node is and what the difference is.
How about we have the students ask questions?
Let's have it, yeah.
I would also like to know.
I will give, yes, sorry. I'll give you the dark side of lightning later.
Okay.
So, any questions?
But couldn't Bitcoin be bad because, like, you know, drug money can be used to buy Bitcoin and
Absolutely.
trade it, and it's not fully safe. But yeah, there's a lot of illegal money on there.
Yes.
But also to that way, it's how is it different to cash in that way? Right? So one of the things about Bitcoin or cash, right, is you see cash that's in my hand, right? It's called a bearer asset because it's in my hand, right? I can give it to you, right? And then I have no control over it. Okay? Bitcoin is the same. Now, a bearer asset can be used for good things or bad things. So, if you've read the history of Bitcoin, you will have heard about the Silk Road, right? And Silk Road was where you can buy drugs, or you can order an assassination of somebody, right? Apparently. Okay.
FBI.
Okay, you can go look on WikiLeaks. There's been a dump of everything that's on WikiLeaks. Anyway, but you can also do it for buying flowers for your mother, right? And the vast majority of people use it for those good reasons. Okay, but of course, for the bad reasons, they also exist. But it's much less than cash and coins, much less.
So,
But it does exist.
Thanks. So if I may share from 3 different perspectives, statistically, the illegal use based on Western standards value system, money laundering, stuff like that, is actually way less than cash. For the reason that because Bitcoin is not exactly anonymous, so people can still track you. People just cannot stop you, but they can still track you. So that's number one. It is used, but statistically it's much less than cash today. It's
And
number
also,
one.
James, when they track you,
Yes.
they don't track you to your name
They track you
or to your physical address.
Right.
They don't do that. What they do is they track you to your presence
Yes.
on the Bitcoin blockchain.
Yes.
for a
Okay? So you can still be a secret
All
person.
these addresses are connected, so
Yeah, but it's
most
how
like
you-
you have a KYC address.
If one of them has KYC,
Yeah,
then you can
if you
find
have,
it.
you can do it that way.
But if I may just go through the point. So number one is statistically, yeah, people use it for laundering, but it's much better than cash. Do you use cash? Would you say cash is evil? You wouldn't say. And why is that? That goes into the second point. So the funny thing is, before when people were fighting Al Qaeda extremists in the Middle East, they love using Toyota trucks. If you watch the videos, right? Because why? Toyota trucks are awesome. They don't break. Maintenance cost is low. Very fuel efficient. Would you say Toyota truck is evil? You don't. It's a tool that people use. So that's the argument number 2. Number 3, going back to the positivism thing, and that's why Bitcoin is here at the Human Rights Foundation. It's because who is to say what is right and wrong. And going back to the example, if I'm a descendant in China, I'm simply trying to fight for my freedom and to save my money and pass to my kids outside of China. Even though China says it's illegal, or money laundering, or terrorist financing, I can still do it. I can still save my wealth for my children.
The same also applies to America and all the other nations.
Absolutely.
And I mean, we see with PayPal, for example, now, they say, okay, if you say something wrong, they can take $2,500 of your money. So we have the same problems in the West as we have in China.
Absolutely.
With, okay, the
Just
state
different
using
scale.
money
Yes.
as a totalitarian tool to control people. So maybe we just have to do away with this concept of money laundering, because it just says, okay, how can there be dirty money and clean money? It's just a made-up concept by the government to basically legitimize their control of money. And I think if you think like cryptocurrency and Bitcoin to the very end, to the complete logical conclusion is that the government should not have control over money. That's the basis of the whole thing.
And to go deeper into the rabbit hole, throughout human history, it's actually human nature to gravitate towards the money that has no views, the money that has no judgment. It's just like water. Water, good people, bad people, rich people, poor people, everybody can drink water. Water doesn't discriminate. And money, the best type of money is like water. It doesn't discriminate. You can use it in whatever way you want, and people actually gravitate towards that. And that's why Bitcoin was designed, and that's why Bitcoin is here at the Freedom Forum.
There's no blockchain record.
You just talk about it cannot. It's supposed. It cannot prevent you from your transaction record.
Cannot stop.
Yeah, but so it can track your cell phone, but not necessarily your address or your personal.
And nobody really knows that.
Yes, please.
So
Yeah.
basically how Bitcoin network works, computers like people. It's just a bunch of people like sitting in a room with everybody with a paper in front of them, and this paper records transactions. So going back to
My name is Yahweh, and I give you $10, and the record will just say, maybe the code give you $10.
To another code.
Yahweh will not appear.
You will not appear unless you happen to get that $10 Bitcoin from a centralized exchange that linked to your name.
Or what if, I know in China, if you want to apply for telecom service or cell phone, you have to give the name.
You can just send them Bitcoin and they will give you a
So in terms of, correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, actually if you want to elaborate on that, it doesn't.
Yeah, you would also have to use Tor. Like if you want to stay safe, you also, if you want to use Bitcoin and you want to pay someone and not be tracked, then you also have to use Tor to be sure that your IP address is hidden from the people you transact with.
There's many layers to it.
Yes.
There's many layers to it. So first there is what is stored on the blockchain. So the ledger that everybody has in front of them, recording, this is the transaction 1, the transaction 2, transaction 3. And basically this is from where to where, these addresses, and how much money. And that added up, you can find out how many addresses and how much money, which every address has. But it's UTXOs, search, but I won't get into that. And then the other part is, how do people communicate? So it's people seeing recording ledger. So people need to talk. So there's actually two aspects to it. There is the actual blockchain that everybody sees, and there is who is doing talking. And we both need to talking part, like sorry, I don't know your name, but you can use things like Tor or like maybe VPN, I don't know, stuff like that to like cover you up. But the blockchain, you need formulate your transaction in a way where it's very hard to find out the intention of this transaction, basically.
And that's also another reason why I'll get to that. That's also a reason why Human Rights Foundation also teach activists how to use Tor, for example. You have a question?
So, if Bitcoin couldn't be stopped, could it be like destabilized because there are market crashes, and like if a country that is powerful enough could like find a way to make a stock market crash, wouldn't that like just annihilate Bitcoin?
So I think Gary can comment more on this, but just a quick 1 minute is there is Bitcoin price and there is Bitcoin network. I personally love talking about the network. The network is indestructible. What is the network? It's the every 10 minutes of recording the ledgers I talk about, how much you owe, how much I send to you, how much you send to me, globally recorded every 10 minutes. That is beating like a heartbeat. It actually doesn't stop. And based on my research, it is indestructible at this point, period. So even if Bitcoin crashes from before it was $60,000, $20,000 today, going to $2,000, the network itself will actually continue to operate indestructibly.
For example, right now, the Bitcoin price is around 20,500. Okay. November last year, it was around 67. Okay. If you look at the network, so the price has come down a bit, right? If you look at the network itself, the network is actually the strongest it's ever been. Right? In terms of the computers and the nodes and the communication and the security around how that communication takes place and how the coins move across that network, that blockchain, is the strongest it's ever been. Okay? On the price side of things, the price side of things is like a monetary market.
When our kids grow up, it'll be like
$100. And that depends on how much you and I are willing to agree to make a monetary exchange. So if I want to get your coin, I would have to negotiate with you, maybe on a central exchange, but there are also decentralized exchanges.
So we're trying to create
and I would need to negotiate with you on a price in another currency that we agree on. Could be the euro, could be the US dollar, could be another security like Ethereum. How much of that I would need to give to you before you transfer your Bitcoin to me. Okay? And that's the price. So at the moment, it's only like this part of the table that wants to engage in those kinds of monetary transactions. But when the market, like a human being, it goes up and down, depending on how you're feeling. Are you happy or are you sad? Okay. Do you think we're in an expansion period or are we in a decline period? Okay. When we're in an expansion period, those monetary transactions, they expand to the whole table. And everybody in the table wants to negotiate, not just me, everyone wants to negotiate with you for your Bitcoin. And then you have the control to say, I will only send it to you if you give me, and you can set a price that would make you happy. The more people you talk to, you can set a higher price in that other currency. In the Bitcoin,
the question is also if the governments can really control the markets. Because I mean, for example, if you look at yen, for example, right now, I would imagine that like the Bank of Japan would like to have a higher yen price, but it's still dropping. So it's very hard for governments to have these fixed currencies.
If I can just add on to Gary's view just really quick, to give you a perspective, which is actually not a right statistics, to give you a sense of how powerful this network of decentralized computer is. The Bitcoin calculation capability is 150,000 times more powerful than all of the supercomputers combined in the world. So if you were to want to hack it, then you have to spend crap loads of money and you probably still can't. It has infinite escape velocity in terms of computational powers. In short, one sentence, Bitcoin network is the most powerful computational network in the world today.
And the more you attack it,
it gets stronger.
It gets stronger and stronger. It's something that's in the software that's called difficulty.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.